Since the transfer window opened, we've seen some crazy moves happen already across the Premier League. However, I think every club has a player that they need to sign and haven't done so yet. Welcome back to Inmr, where in today's podcast, I'm going to be talking about one player each Premier League club should sign. This is going to be based off of links, lack of depth in that position, and playing style that will match well with the club that I think they should join. Starting off with Arsenal, I've gone for Armel Bella-Kotchap, 21-year-old defender, obviously really good for Southampton last season. There is no way he should be playing Championship football next season. This would be good because Arsenal suffered towards the end of last season due to a lack of depth in this position. They were playing centre-backs that certainly weren't up to the task of leading their club to a Premier League. However, Bella-Kotchap would be a good player in case of injury once again, and I think he could fix that depth issue. It's not going to be too expensive. Already, I don't think he would have been too much, but now that Southampton have been relegated, his price would have gone down even more. So I think that would be a clever transfer for Arsenal. Aston Villa, I've gone for Harvey Barnes, another player who deserves to be playing in the Prem, but has obviously been relegated. Very good winger, 13 goals last season. And I think Villa do need a winger. I don't think it's good to keep playing Jacob Ramsey out of position. He's done really well out on the wing, but he is better centrally. Coutinho, in my opinion, is past it, not good enough, and I think that Harvey Barnes coming in and playing on that left-hand side would be really good for Villa going forward. For Bournemouth, I've gone for Milos Kerkez. He's a 19-year-old left-back who's had a great season in the Eredivisie. He's been linked with Leicester and Leeds, but an opportunity to play Prem football is much more appealing. Personally, I think that's what he'd be thinking. He's been valued by AZ Alkmaar at 20 million. But I think that could prove to be a bargain in a few years as Kerkez has a lot of potential. For Brentford, I've gone for James Ward-Prowse, a top player who will inevitably play for a Prem club next season. I think he'd suit Brentford really well. There's not an abundance of depth in that midfield, so he'd slot in perfectly. In terms of suiting Brentford, I think that due to their possession last season being one of the worst in the league, I think they had like 43% possession on average per game, so they didn't have much of the ball and they didn't score many goals. But when they did score, 25% of their goals were from set pieces. With James Ward-Prowse in the squad, I think he could help them even more with goals or deliveries into the box, which could keep them scoring plenty, even if they don't see a lot of the ball. For Brighton, I've gone for Mykola Matvienko. They were linked with him previously. He's played under De Zerbi before, so he definitely fit the playing style. It doesn't seem that Levi Colwill's going to come back to Brighton, so I think looking at other options as soon as possible is much better, and I think he could be the club's next best bet in terms of a centre-back. Burnley, I've gone for James Trafford. It does look like this is just a few days away from happening. He's had a great season at Bolton and then topped it off with an unreal England under-21 campaign. Didn't concede a single goal all tournament and of course saved a last-minute penalty in the final. He's been part of the City Academy. He won't be given a chance in their side, but maybe a loan move to Burnley would benefit both clubs and of course Trafford, as he'll gain Premier League experience. City are going to have a player that's used to the Premier League, and then he can come back when maybe Edison's had his time, and Burnley of course have a much better chance of staying up with a high quality goalkeeper. If he goes on loan to any Premier League club, I do think it will be Burnley, as obviously company's going to use his stature at City to encourage this move from happening. For Chelsea, I've gone for David De Gea. Of course, his contract hasn't been extended at United. Chelsea, in my opinion, need a much better keeper. It's a win-win. Kepa can't be Chelsea's first choice keeper. They need someone with experience and quality. After the year Chelsea have had, this is their time to fight back and make a big statement, and bringing in De Gea would definitely help them achieve that. For Crystal Palace, I've gone for Sacha Boy. He's a young right back and he had a really good season at Galatasaray. A very strong and pacey player, similar to Kyle Walker. He would suit Palace really well. We saw how well Wan-Bissaka did for Palace, and I think Boy could be the next version of that for Palace. I haven't seen loads of him, but from what I have seen, it's very impressive and he's a fullback with a lot of potential. Everton, I've gone for Josh Maja. He's currently a free agent, so it wouldn't cost them anything to bring him in. 24 years old, a striker, which I do think they need. They need goals and he can do that. Was considering going for an older striker who guarantees goals, but that is only a short-term fix, whereas I think Maja would be a long-term solution, and he could prevent Everton from having a situation like they did last year for many years, whereas maybe an experienced striker brought in could do it for 1 year and then the year after that it's back to the way it was. So I do think he needs to be given a little bit of time. Obviously he is young, but it will come good. Fulham have gone for Emin Bayram. He's a young centre-back who has been playing well for Galatasaray. He can start attacks from the back, which I think is really good for a centre-back in this day and age in football. Tim Ream has been at Fulham for a long time and is now 35, so bringing in a new centre-back to replace him for a number of years would be good. I think this is a really smart signing and one that would benefit them for a long time. For Liverpool, I've decided to go for Kavica Kvaratskhelia. He had a great season last year with 28 goal contributions in the Serie A and Champions League. A young winger who can use both feet well, just what Liverpool need to replicate their success from a few years ago. I think they've massively struggled without Mane. They need a striker as well, but I think with the midfielders that they've brought in, they're going to be able to create loads more chances, and therefore Gakpo will score more. However, with the injuries and poor form, I think that the left wing is definitely an area for improvement. For Luton, I've gone for Joseph Martinez. Luton, of course, are favourites to get relegated, so they're going to need to score goals to avoid that. Martinez is an experienced striker. He's done really well in the MLS over the years, and Inter Miami only want 10 million for him. He's one of only 13 players to score over 100 MLS goals and has the most hat-tricks in MLS history. A move to the Premier League is appealing, especially as he's getting older. For Manchester City, obviously it's difficult to improve their squad. They are pretty much perfect. However, if I had to, I'd go for Theo Hernandez. João Cancelo has returned for pre-season, but I can't see him being at the club for much longer after the issue that happened last season. Theo Hernandez has been linked to the Prem for years, and I think now could be the perfect time for that to happen. City would do really well with him at left back. He's a perfect modern fullback who gets forward and creates chances, which would obviously work great in Pep's side. His playing style complements Guardiola's ideas, so it'd be silly for City not to at least try and bring him in. For Man United, I've gone for Andre Onana. It looks like this transfer is literally about to happen. Maybe by the time this podcast is out, it would have already been announced. Onana played really well for Inter last year, and of course United are in need of a new goalkeeper. Onana is a creative and positive goalkeeper who embodies the traits of a modern goalkeeper. He's one of the most calm and confident keepers on the ball in the world, which is shown by his 94% pass accuracy in his half last season. This style of play would catch out lots of Premier League sides who opt for the high press, and I think this move definitely will happen. Onana wants it, United want it, and I do think it's going to be done very soon. For Newcastle United, I've gone for Tino Livramento, another player whose side got relegated but is far too good to be playing Championship football. Livramento is returning from injury and would do really well in the continuously improving Newcastle side. Obviously Trippier's first choice right back at the moment, but he's 32, so it's not going to be too long before Livramento could take over in that position. And for the time being, it would be great to have someone like Kieran Trippier as a mentor, so that by the time he is ready to be first choice, he's going to be even better. He's been unlucky with his injuries, but when his knees are working, he's incredible, and Newcastle should definitely consider him as one for the future. Nottingham Forest, I've gone for Robert Sanchez. He's definitely going to leave Brighton. They've just signed Bart van Bruggen, and Sanchez doesn't suit De Zerbi's style of play. Jason Steele became first choice goalkeeper last season, which I think is something Brighton fans never thought they'd see. Forest need a goalkeeper. Navas' loan spell has just ended, so at the minute they've got Wayne Hennessy as their first choice, which isn't going to be good enough. Robert Sanchez is Premier League proven and would be perfect to prevent them conceding as many goals as they did last season. Sheffield United, I've gone for Raul Jimenez. Sheffield United missed the most big chances in the Championship last season. They created the most, but lots of them went to waste. So I think they need a Premier League proven, experienced striker to change that. Jimenez, of course, had his big injury, which set his career back a lot, and since being fit again, he can't get back into that Wolves lineup. I think he's maybe third choice striker now. But a move to Sheffield United could give his career its final boost before he moves away from the Premier League. I do think what he needs is a bit of change to get back into his form. It's never going to be as good. He's aged, he's out of his prime now, but he knows how to score goals. That doesn't change. So Sheffield United could really benefit from a player like him at the club. For Tottenham, I've gone for Mickey van der Ven. They are linked with him, so this could happen in the next few weeks. He's only worth 25 million, but got loads of potential. 22-year-old left-footed centre-back, of course, very sought over lately. Postecoglou identified the defence as a big area to improve on at Spurs, so bringing him in will be a massive priority. He has an abundance of strengths, such as aerial ability, ball carrying ability, shot blocking and speed. He doesn't get beaten often, and when in possession he's positive and gets the ball forward quickly, which I think Spurs are going to need next season. For West Ham, I've gone for Romeo Lavia. He is the fifth and final relegated player who I think deserves a move back up to the top. He stood out in a lacklustre Southampton side last season. Declan Rice has just signed for Arsenal, so Lavia will be the perfect replacement in my opinion. He's a really intelligent footballer, retains the ball well, plays progressive passes, wins the ball back quickly when his side loses it. He's the perfect holding midfielder, and similar to a few of these players, the modern role he suits really well. As he's young, I think a club like West Ham would be good for his career at the minute before he makes a move to a top club. You see sometimes young players go into that top side straight away and being overwhelmed and can't quite step up to the plate, but going to West Ham first as a stepping stone club I think would really benefit him and obviously West Ham. Finally, we've got Wolves. I think they should sign Duvan Zapata. They scored the least amount of goals last season with 31. So Zapata has proven to be a good striker, but in recent years he hasn't been the same with Atalanta. A move to the Prem and a fresh start is exactly what he needs, in my opinion. We've seen that he can do well, we've seen that he can score plenty of goals. I just think he needs a change. Wolves would bring him back to that level that we know he can play at and therefore help them score more goals and avoid another relegation battle. That is where I'm going to end the podcast. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll be back soon with another one.